Halo on the Master Chief Collection is dying. This isn't clickbait, and this isn't meant to be a doom and gloom video, but it is meant to discuss the concerningly low population that is killing the vitality of classic Halo. The Master Chief Collection has a very low population. According to Steam charts for the month of November, there was only around 3,000 some average daily players. There are, of course, players on Xbox and the Microsoft Store that are not included in that, meaning the actual player count is probably significantly higher, but there's no denying that classic Halo just isn't what it used to be. A low population is to be expected for an older game, but the problem is that it's affecting the quality of the multiplayer matches. Some games and modes are extremely difficult or even impossible to find games for. Nobody's playing Halo Reach Invasion, probably because it's in the ranked playlist and nobody plays ranked. I have no idea why 343 thought Invasion should be a ranked playlist. Invasion was never viewed as a competitive game mode. Speaking of ranked, the few people who do play it are sweats who constantly make new accounts to farm inexperienced players, often for YouTube videos. Most games are played in Halo 3 and Reach, and although you can still find games for Halo 1 and 2, they sometimes do take longer. A bigger problem is the quality of the games, and this really is my biggest concern with the MCC. You can find games in Halo 3 and Reach very quickly, but almost every game turns into a 3v4, or a 2v4, or even a 1v4. I'm not exaggerating at all. Games are wildly unbalanced. At least one player will quit or go permanently AFK at the beginning of almost every game. When you do get a 4v4 game, the teams are often unbalanced. Most of the time one team will curb stomp the other. You'll get MLG pros and tryhards going up against 10-year-olds on a regular basis. And no matter how good you are, there's only so much you can do when your three teammates can't get a single kill and the enemy team have map control. I play alone, so this affects me quite a bit. Now, I'm not a great player, I'm just average, maybe slightly above average. But I know Halo. I know how to play the game. I know the flow of the game. Most of my teammates don't. The low population of players is to blame for this inequality. Every game has good and bad players, and unbalanced games are unavoidable. But games with healthy populations are able, with some behind-the-scenes skill or engagement-based matchmaking, to match players in a way that avoids getting wrecked so consistently. I played a ton of Halo Reach on Xbox Live when I was younger. In fact, it was my first online Halo, as we had dial-up internet in the Halo 3 days. If you're young, you probably don't know what that is, but it was internet that was ran through a landline phone, and it was so slow that it couldn't load videos or music, let alone support online gaming. It was basically just for reading articles and email. But I remember the Reach days well. You got wrecked sometimes. You wrecked other people sometimes. But for the most part, games were just average. You won some, you lost some. But overall, it was a vibrant and lively experience. It was common for both teams to be roughly balanced, with the winning team ahead by only 5 or 10 points most of the time. But almost every game I play in the MCC is one team obliterating the other. And it's because of the low population that it causes there to be a disparity between the number of good and bad players. Game Pass is responsible for some of this. I suspect a lot of these inexperienced players are younger players who are only there because they got the Master Chief Collection on Game Pass for free. And there's nothing wrong with this. I think it's great that Halo's on Game Pass. We would probably have even less players if it wasn't. But there's no denying that it attracts a younger audience, should we say. Then there's the fact that these games are just old. Like really old. Halo 3 is 17 years old. And the original Halo is 23 years old and came out 3 console generations back. We didn't even have R1, RB bumpers on controllers in those days, let alone paddles and the insane customization that FPS games offer nowadays, even on consoles. Everything dies in time, and nothing lasts forever. But it's heartbreaking to see an IP that once dominated the FPS genre hooked up to a respirator, taking its last breaths, while inferior titles have taken its place in many aspects. Is it possible to turn the tide? I don't know. Some have suggested it's time for a Halo 3 remaster like they did with Halo 1 and 2. I'm down for this personally. The cutscenes in Halo 2 remastered were absolutely fantastic. I'd love to see the same treatment for Halo 3, which is arguably the most beloved in the entire series. But I'm not sure if it's financially viable for Halo Studios to do this. The MCC itself has been out for 10 years and is on Game Pass, meaning they've already made all the money that they're likely going to make. There's no in-game store for cosmetics, thank God, and there's not enough of a player population to guarantee such efforts would even pay off. Halo Infinite reportedly cost hundreds of millions of dollars to make. A remaster of Halo 3 would certainly be less than a full game, but it wouldn't be cheap. And I'm not sure that the reward is there given the risk. I'm also not sure if the classic Halo formula can resonate with mass audiences anymore. Halo revolutionized the FPS genre in 2001. If you're not aware, Halo was the first game to have aim assist and the modern left stick moves while the right stick aims mechanic that every game has today. Before this, shooter games on consoles were extremely janky and lacked precision. They relied on snappy auto-aim and there was very little accuracy you could achieve. Go play GoldenEye on the Nintendo 64 if you don't believe me. Now, PC players love to complain about controllers, but the fact is it's impossible to play a shooter without aim assist on a controller. And Halo is the reason we have games like COD and Fortnite. But that was a long time ago. In 2007, Call of Duty set the new standard for first-person shooters that we still follow today. Sprint, customized loadouts, progression, prestige, etc. And in 2017, Fortnite changed the multiplayer industry again, with free-to-play and Battle Royale becoming the standard modes. Compared with these modern mechanics, classic Halo is considered outdated to many casual gamers. And this is why 343 has changed Halo's core formula in each game. Halo 4 was a Call of Duty clone, Halo 5 was a Titanfall clone, and Halo Infinite has elements of Fortnite in it, such as the art style, the free-to-play model, and even the third-person mode that has come out recently. 343 and Microsoft are scared to make a Halo without modern elements in it. I don't think classic Halo will ever dominate the gaming market again, but I know that watered-down Halo won't either. Halo Infinite, as well as 4 and 5, all saw massive praise and sales at launch, only for the core multiplayer audience to drop dramatically within a few months. Using Steam charts for Infinite, we can see the player count went from 250,000 peak population at launch to less than 10,000 peak population only 7 months later. That's a 90% decrease in players in less than a year. And the peak population has never gone past 20,000 since. Again, this is on Steam and there are thousands of players on Xbox and the Microsoft Store not included here, but why would the Steam charts show such decline if it was not reflective of an overall trend, considering the multiplayer of this game is free on all 3 platforms? It's highly likely that large drops were seen on the other platforms as well. Compare this picture from 2008 of Halo 3 that shows 250,000 active players. Halo 3 had a healthy population for several years after it came out in 2007, and it's reported to have had 1.1 million players on the multiplayer alone at launch. This was a time when video games were still stigmatized as geek culture. And today, video games are much more popular and are as mainstream as cinema. Halo Infinite reportedly had 20 million players at launch, though it's unknown how many were on multiplayer versus campaign. But if it had a 90% decrease in peak monthly multiplayer numbers in less than a year on Steam, is it really a game that people are playing? Halo Infinite likely had more players at launch than Halo 3 ever did, simply because it is free, an established IP, and video games are extremely popular today, while they were still an emerging art in the early 2000s. But I would argue that Halo 3's player base was stronger overall considering these things. As of the making of this video, Halo Infinite's peak player count for the last 30 days is 6,000. Halo the Master Chief Collection is at 7,400. This whole time I've been claiming Halo MCC is doing bad, but now I'm saying it's doing better than Infinite. Well, keep in mind there are 5 different multiplayer games in the MCC, so those 7,000 are divided by 5. The actual player count for any given game is likely much smaller. As stated, Halo 3 and Reach seem to be the most populated of the 5. All of these factors prove that Halo is not reaching wider audiences, at least not past the launch window. If Halo was relevant to modern audiences, 343 wouldn't have made 3 dramatically different games. I'm not sure Halo can dominate mass audiences like it did in 2007, but I do believe classic Halo would thrive if Halo Studios would let it. I firmly believe a classic Halo game without sprint and other modern mechanics, or at least without these features being the primary mechanics that the rest of the game is built around, is not only financially viable, but is the answer the Halo community has been looking for. Imagine a Halo community that isn't fractured and tiny, but one that is vibrant and lively. One that keeps playing the games in high numbers and keeps buying new Halo content for years to come. One with player counts consistently in the tens or hundreds of thousands. One that gets talked about on social media and gets people excited again. I believe that's possible, but I don't believe it can happen chasing trends. Halo's the most unique shooter game I've ever played. It doesn't play like arena shooters of old because it's not an arena game. It doesn't play like tactical shooters or Twitch shooters because it isn't one. It's a wholly unique experience that has never been matched. I believe it is so unique that it can still succeed on its own without chasing trends or gimmicks from other games. Classic Halo games are dying, but they're still outperforming the most recent 343 game, and that says something. That says there's something worth fighting for.